All right, great. So, welcome our next presenter today. We have all the way from Hawaii, who is joining us. You may have seen this gentleman on TV. You may have seen him in a movie. I know I look for every time I go to a movie. I'm always like, "Oh, hey, there's Steven." So it's always a pleasant surprise. He's been in Widows. I'm gonna ask him some more stuff that he's been in, some independent stuff, but most recently you've seen him on CBS. I want to get that right. It's CBS, right? CBS's Magnum PI, the reboot. He stars as TC. So I want to welcome Stephen Hill to the show, to the Reset 2020 virtual summit. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you for having me, brother. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we want to get right into it, Stephen. We want to first of all, I'm gonna let you tell our people run down some of your resume because I try to tell people all the time. I know people, right? So run down your resume, let them know some of the things you they may have caught you in, and some of the things that maybe you have coming up as well.
Um, so things people most recently may have seen me in Law and Order. Done a couple of episodes of that. Blue Bloods. Uh, I did a series on a limited series on Netflix called Maniac with Emma Stone and Jonah Hill. Uh, you also probably saw me on Widows, and of course, Magnum PI. I even did an episode of Hawaii Five O as well.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So we want to talk about now for those who don't know. We're going to have a lot of Hamptonians gracing the stage today. Hampton University in Virginia. So Stephen and I both went to HU. So we want to take it back to there, man, because I want to. We want the reason we're here. We want to talk about resetting your passion. If we talk about Reset 2020, we're talking to people about we're expressing different areas of our lives and how we just want to reset and again not start talking about starting over, but just kind of you know getting back to it. Kind of coming back home to what it is that moves us in our lives. So I want to talk to you about passion because acting is something that you may have a skill for acting, you may have a talent, but you also really, when you're talking about becoming a professional, you've got to have a passion for that. It's got to be something that you love and a burning desire to do because it's not an easy thing to get into and to make a career out of. So I want
Mhm.
to talk to you because I don't necessarily remember when we were in school you being an actor. I'm not saying you weren't. I just don't remember. So what when did the acting bug hit you? What was your goal when you started at Hampton? Was it to become an actor? What was your journey back then?
Actually, I wanted to be a director.
Okay.
I was very much so uh, affected by Spike Lee films. I love Spike Lee films. I love it was like that era of black filmmaking where Spike Lee, John Singleton, they were kind of running the game at that point. We had films like Love Jones back then, Do the Right Thing. You know what I mean? Like all actually, the big one for me was maybe Mo Better Blues. So when I was in high school, I was like, how do I become that? How do I become a director? And one of the things that I heard was to, pursue cinematography. So I'd love to take photos. So I said, okay, maybe I'll do cinematography. And I saw that Hampton, I knew I wanted to go to an HBCU. My best friend's father was our high school football coach, Tyrone Belfort Sr., and he was also our African American Studies professor. And he's a Q as well. And I remember he used to tell us like, "You guys got to go to HBCU, man. You ain't gonna get that opportunity to be around those positive black folks like that in any other time in your life." And he was right. So I knew I wanted to go to HBCU, and I applied to Hampton because my homegirl Shay Bright, she actually ran track for Hampton, and oddly enough, she is now a guidance counselor at the high school. But she came back from one of those college trips, and she was like, "Oh my God, Hampton University was the most beautiful school. You have to go to Hampton." And so I applied. That was actually I was kind of lazy in high school, so I applied to only Hampton. That was it. So luckily, they uh they accepted me, and they had cinematography. It was one of the few schools, black schools, that had cinematography. So I was like, all right, cool. And then I get to Hampton, and they were like, oh, you had an old booklet. Dude, we haven't had cinematography for 6 years. So I was like, what? And you look at that campus, man, and then that ratio, you couldn't get me to leave Hampton.
Right, you're gonna find a reason to stay.
Yeah, exactly. So I stayed, and I took photography classes and mass media. That was my way of combining and somehow still getting behind the camera. But then I started doing all the fashion shows. I know you remember
Yeah,
that.
I definitely remember that. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I started doing all the fashion shows, and then I was working another Hamptonian, Stephen Kavanagh. He had a store called In a Zone that was like
Hmm.
right outside the mall, and I started working there because I needed to work somewhere because I had a car. And I told my mom, I was like, "There's no way." They say you can't have a car till junior year. There's no way I'm
Right,
gonna be paying payment for a car that I can't drive. So I'm coming down there with my car.
right.
So I needed a job, so I worked there. And Ralph Reynolds from RP55 would come into the store all the time. I was like, "Yo, man, you gotta let me model for you, man. You gotta let me model for you." And I don't think he really took me serious until uh, one day at Second Street Pub or Cafe it was. These girls at Hampton, they started a little modeling agency called The Urge,
Okay.
and we did a fashion show for them. And he was there, and he was like, "Yo, they loved you." I was like, "I told you, man, this is what
Try to
I do."
tell you. Right.
You know what I mean? And then so he was like, all right, I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna give you a call. And like 2 weeks later, he was like, "Yo, you ready? This weekend we're gonna take some pictures." So I was like, all right, cool. We took the photos, and he had me up in the Vibe and the Source,
Wow.
Double XL. I was in all these magazines. I didn't make no money. He gave me $100 and took me to Burger King. As my payment. But when you're in college and you're in the Source magazine, it's a cool trade off. So
Right, right, right.
yeah, that was how I got in front of the camera. And then when I graduated, I came back to New York, and modeling wasn't cutting the mustard for me. And then my mother passed away, and I was like, you know what? I want to try something else, man, because this is not it. And acting gave me an outlet to kind of deal with the death of my mom, and
Mm.
I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. Now, now, so when you got started, first of all, I lost my mom at a young age too, so I understand how that will both motivate you and kind of have you questioning everything at the same time. Really,
So
but also kind of helps you focus. Well, for me, I'm gonna speak for myself. It also helped me focus on what was really important, and kind of helped me to weed through things that didn't matter, the kind of the noise that the distractions we allow to kind of get in the way, some of the excuses, like, listen, because kind of the clock starts ticking in your head. You start thinking, look, I don't have, I've got to go for this now. So
mhm.
that's what that did for me when you talk about pursuing your passions, pursuing your dreams. Um, but I know for you, so when you got started, I mean, how was that journey? Because I know I read in your bio somewhere you were selling copiers for a while, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
so you're trying to, your dreams of being a big time actor or director, but at some point you also had to go and hold down a 9 to 5 job, and I think a lot of people are dealing with that, where they're like, the older we get, they're like, listen, dreams are for the young people, dreams are for someone else. I've got
Yeah.
responsibilities, and I try to teach people how to go out there and really create businesses without having to quit their jobs as well. So talk to us about your journey in um, that time frame when you're like, you're pursuing it, but brother got to eat, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, they say it takes a village, man. And at the time, my girlfriend in college, Erin Strother, um, she she got out of school, and she went straight to work at Goldman Sachs,
Oh
right?
wow.
So I was like, wow, you just gonna come right out the gates, and it's funny because in college, I remember I remember thinking, we would go to the library, and we would look for jobs or whatever. And the only jobs I was applying to was 100,000 and up.
Hmm.
Right. And then
Wow.
and then I had to like drop the search down to like 80 grand, right? Because you just have this idea
You're invincible,
of
right?
yeah, what you're gonna do when you get
Right.
out of school. So I had interviewed at like Eli Lilly. Those are the only places that actually said you could make like 80,000 or up or whatever, right? Where like the pharmaceutical or
Right.
sales.
Right.
Um, and I remember Erin's aunt, after me sitting on the couch for like 7 months when I came back to New York after graduation, she got me an interview at Xerox, and I had that little interview, and they brought me on board, and I was there for about 3.5 years before I actually left to pursue acting. But
Wow.
in the interim of being there, I went like so. I was on 46 in Park, and then I walked across to Restaurant Row on 46 between 8th and 9th, and there used to be B Smith's restaurant. I know they have one down in DC,
Mm-hmm.
but they used to have one in
Yeah,
DC.
used to. Yep, used to.
Yeah, she recently passed away, but it was B Smith's, and that was the first restaurant gig I ever had, and so I worked there, and I worked there. I was taking acting classes, working at Xerox, and working at B Smith's
Wow.
all at the same time to kind of see like, can I actually pay my rent working at a restaurant? I don't know, right?
Right. Right.
And then when I found out that I could make enough to at least pay my rent, I um I ended up leaving Xerox, and you know it was a mutually beneficial thing for me to leave Xerox because it got down to a point where I was only going on
They were gonna
auditions.
get rid of you if you
Yeah,
didn't walk out the door. You walk out on
yeah,
your own volition or with security.
right.
Well, and we're going to get deeper into the acting, but I want to talk to you real quick because you talked about you left Xerox, the
Mhm.
corporate job, working at B Smith because you had a dream, because you had a passion you were pursuing. Now, like I said earlier, we went to Hampton, so I understand the pressure of when someone comes and say, "Hey, homecoming, hey Stephen, what you up to?"
Yeah.
I'm waiting tables at the restaurant. Like, what? Tell me about that. Like, because you know that pressure, but you know what you're going after. So, what was it like at that time when you got like, I'm walking away from this because I'm pursuing this job, but you got the outside pressure, and talk to us about how you dealt with that.
I think we got to let go of that kind of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I was just recently talking to somebody, and they were like, "Yo, remember, like, I think this wasn't even uh us reflecting on something. This was somebody saying like, oh man, I got to go to we trying to go to homecoming. I got to get right. I can't go.
Mm.
Right. I got to make sure my outfit is right. If not, I can't go."
Right.
And it's like, what? It's like,
Right.
wait a minute. Like the school started with with former slaves,
Wow.
trying to that had never been able to even read. Like, so we went from a place in this country where we weren't allowed to read, and now we're not going to a higher institution of learning because we don't have a nice outfit.
Right.
Like
Wow.
craziness. So I think we have to let go of that because um, it really actually holds us back, and the dream is not necessarily money. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When it's all said and done, you're not gonna right before you get in your casket, like, hold on, let me count my money, let me
Right.
see how
Right.
much
Right.
money I made in my lifetime. Oh, I did pretty good, and then lay down and die. You know what I mean?
Right.
It doesn't really work that way. And people, at a funeral, everybody talks about your stories, how you impacted them. So
Absolutely.
I remember one time being at B Smith's, and this girl Tiffany. I won't say which one. There's a million
A
Tiffany.
thousand of them. Right.
Who knows who she is if she's listening to this? I remember, and we kind of talked a little bit at Hampton, and I don't know if maybe she was still a little salty about that or whatever. Who knows? But I know that she came into B Smith's, and she acted like I didn't exist.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
Wow.
yo, I'm getting you your potato rolls or
Right.
whatever the
Right.
hell,
Right.
your swamp thing. But she yeah, she acted like she didn't know me, and I was just like, damn, that was a tough day. That was a tough one. And
Mm.
I've had some very humbling jobs along the way. One time I was working at Pizzeria Uno. You know what
Wow.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like so right before, literally months before I booked this job, I was working at Carmine's on 44th Street, right in
Wow.
Times Square. Slinging spaghetti and meatballs. but I made good money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I had an opportunity to keep pursuing my dreams. So I think we got to let go of that, like trying to impress one another in that kind of way. Like, who cares, man? Like,
I 100% agree, man. I think that that is one of the biggest things that keeps our people in general, but definitely our people locked from fulfilling our full potential. And you use the word, I love impact. It's when we die, it's about that joy, man. It's about the joy that we lived out, the fulfillment we had in our lives, and the impact that we had on other people's lives. And a paycheck doesn't always bring that, But when you can say, "How listen, if I know why I'm doing what I'm doing," and we can say once we can, and this is again something I talk about going back about when I lost my mom. I was like, you know what people think about me and see and say doesn't matter as much anymore because I know that there's a purpose. So I don't. I get rid of all that. Don't worry about it. I'm not held to all that. Those standards that people think that we should have and be held up to because you know what you're pursuing. So that's great points you made there. So let's talk about your journey, man, because you didn't just come out the door and say, all right, today is Xerox, tomorrow I'm on Magnum PI. So
yeah,
you
really
know,
not. It took me
right,
about 16, 17 years to
wow.
book this.
So 17 years. Did you start in what plays or indie film or talk to us about how that journey started for you?
Yeah, I actually did. I started doing plays. A really cool story of how people say, you know, why should I go to college or why should I go to whatever? It's really about the connections that you make, and besides learning how to also like send a memo and draft a proper letter and
Mm-hmm.
those good things that you learn, but uh, the connections that you make. And there was a brother at Hampton. His name is Dana Hubbard. I think he's still at Hampton right now. He's
Definitely know Dana. Yep.
yeah. So Dana, little do people know, was at one point he was the mascot. He was the
Oh wow.
Hampton Pirate. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, Dana was, he worked on Malcolm X and a bunch of other stuff. You see him as one of the brothers walking by Malcolm X. You know what I mean? Outside of the jail, the courthouse or the jailhouse, and I remember he had an event, and me and Nicholas Bates, we had our own little like film thing. We called it Danger Brothers. Now he does it on his own now, but that was where the brothers and Danger Brothers came from. It was
Okay.
the both of us. We wanted to be directors, and he's still doing it behind the camera, which is dope. Uh, but Dana brought us on board to help him behind the scenes an event he called Hollywood Comes to Hampton Roads. And so all his Hollywood friends, he would come, and it was at the Airspace Museum, and it was like some sort of fundraising event or whatever. And I remember we were just running around, moving tables and chairs and setting up decorations and stuff. But he stopped me, and he was like, "Hey man, you have star demeanor.
Wow.
I'm gonna work with you one day." And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
At the time, I was just doing fashion shows. I didn't know, I
Right.
wasn't about acting at all. And he was like, "All right, now can you go get that table?" You know what I mean? And I was like, "All right, cool." Like I didn't think nothing of it. And then years later, really the first play that I can count that was like an actual performance, and other than me just reading the script, uh, was with him. He cast me as the lead of his play called Every Dog Has His Day, and we did it at the Dole Center in Mount Vernon, and we had like 5 shows or something like that. And I went from never doing a play before to being a lead in a play,
Wow.
and it was not an easy performance. It was really, really difficult, but we knocked it out of the park, and I got to thank him for that opportunity.
Wow. Now, so going to the film side of it, because so you've done it. You've done plays. You've done film. Now you're doing TV. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that's out there after that? But in front of the camera. But so when it comes to the film, like, talk to us about. 'Cause I have a lot of friends who act, and and no matter what you do, once you're in a movie, it's like, yo, look, watch me, I'm in a movie. And sometimes you may see something and be like, wait, was that them? You went, wait, was that really them? Was that that person? So talk
Yeah.
to us about the life of being the extra, but you got screen time to eventually, because I think in Widows, You had some you weren't, I wouldn't call you an extra. I mean, you had some speaking parts in that as well. You know, you had a role in that one. But
I made that more bigger than it was supposed to be.
so we're gonna
But
get to that. I'm gonna ask you how you did that. That's good. I'm gonna ask you how you did that. So let's talk about that role. So going from just somebody on set, third man walking by, to
yeah.
supporting cast. So talked about that time period of going through this and saying, listen, where's your mindset with it? With that, do you feel like you're getting closer? How do you judge whether or not this is working or not? To being part of the crew and making your role bigger than it is. So talk to us about all that right there. That's good stuff.
Okay. So basically, for me, it was plays. I personally didn't have a desire to, you know, be a Broadway actor, right? To do plays,
Mm-hmm.
and the only thing I do is plays, because I just know so many people that do that, and they are absolutely brilliant, but they don't really it doesn't reflect in their paycheck,
Right,
you know,
right,
where somebody could do a commercial. I'll give you an example. And nobody ever talks numbers, but I think we got to kind of get it. That's another thing we
yeah,
got to learn to get around.
right,
Um, so we know what we work with here, right? So just to give you guys an example, I did like some Febreze commercials. It was like a set of like three or four. It was supposed to be like 7 spots, but it ended up being like two. Um, and I made upwards of like 40 grand to not even say nothing,
wow,
right?
wow,
And then me and Dennis A. Allen, also a Hamptonian, he wrote a really dope play called Manhood, and I played the lead in that. And I went straight from, I literally left the job at Carmine's, did Dennis's play, and then a few months later, I booked Magnum PI.
wow,
But Dennis's play, I made like $1,000, and we did it at the National Black Theater in Harlem. It was actually the lady that just started that. It was her birthday the other day. She passed on, Dr. Barbara Ann Tier. But we did his play, and you talk about a month's worth of work.
mm,
In the play, the
mm.
character cuts his penis off and smashes his own penis. You
Well,
know, yeah. I'll let Dennis explain that play to you, but it was really good.
intense.
But you can imagine how intense that was,
Mm-hmm.
and I made about $1,000.
Wow,
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but you can do a commercial and not say a word, only be in it for 2 seconds and make 40 grand. You know what I mean?
that's awesome.
But which one actually do you learn to act? Which
Right,
one do you
right.
get good at your craft? You know what I mean?
Mm,
So it's almost like doing those plays are like going to college. And I could almost say I went to NYU or Columbia,
right.
because I've done a number of student films. So student films, web series, and then commercials that keep you afloat,
Mm-hmm.
make you be able to pay your rent. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, but those are the things that I was doing that like prepared me to get in front of the camera. And I started, with this little resume, and I had it like quadruple spaced. You know, and I had like, instead of putting extra, I would put like featured extra just to
Okay.
make it sound a little good. Like,
Some
hey,
power
they
words.
wanted me to stand in front of the line. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Instead of back of the line. So I've done stuff that I'm not credited in.
So talk to us about how you made your role bigger, because I also I saw another actor. I can't remember his name because I didn't see the movie, but he was talking about a movie that he was in. He had one role and one line, and he just made it bigger, and then he ended up being like the star supporting. I wish I could remember which movie that was. I just saw it this year, but the interview. So talk to us about how you did that. Like, how'd you go in and say, okay, this is cool, but what if we do this, or if that's even how it happened?
Well, doing all those student films and web series is such a collaborative effort that that's like just what I know. I know collaboration. I know, regardless of whoever the director is, somebody like a Spike Lee, I think I would probably have to really earn being a collaborator with him. You got to be already, Spike, he gets the credit for finding people sometimes, but a lot of times, Denzel Washington, Wesley Snipes, those dudes were already huge when he
Mm-hmm.
started working with them. You know what I mean? So, or at least bigger names,
Right.
right? But So somebody like him, you know, I doubt if I would be able to get away with like, yo, what do you think about this line or that? You know, that's. But Steve McQueen in Widows, he was open to it, and I think you know, besides just already having, you know, a career that allowed me to be a collaborator up to that point, um, you know, Daniel Kaluuya, the brother from Get Out, that
Mm-hmm.
was also in that movie. You know, he's African by way of London, England. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
you know, he's playing this dude from Chicago. Now, I'm not from Chicago, but I'm from New York,
Right.
and it's like I'm American. You
Right.
know,
Right.
I'm African American, so I'm not trying to I'm not trying to be African American and then also be Chicagoan.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Got you.
I'm just trying to be Chicago, like a brother from Chicago. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like, whenever I get to a city, I start researching the town and the vernacular and some of the things that they're into. And one of the best places to learn is on your Uber rides.
Ah.
You know,
Okay.
talk to the Uber driver. You know, you get that one that has good conversation or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. You know, and I was coming from the airport, and there was a scene in the movie where my character, as written in the script, it says "get him." I go "get him," right? Like the typical line, right?
Right. Right.
I asked the sister. She was about 20, early 20s, and I said, "What would you do if you wanted to whoop somebody's ass?" Right? And she was like, "Well, somebody start tweaking, right?" And I was like, "What?" Yeah, yeah. If somebody start tweaking, I hadn't even heard tweaking at that point, right?
Right.
And then so she was like, "Gee," I let them know they're about to get a 2-piece spicy, no biscuit, no drink, because they mouth finna be dry. And I was like, "What? I gotta put that in the oh my
Right.
god!" Right? So I didn't even have to write it down. It was so outrageous, right? So, you know, we go through the rehearsal for this fight scene. It's like one camera move, you know, the whole thing, and there's breakaway walls and all of this stuff. So I'm like, oh man, I only got one shot at this one. And I had already talked to Steve about some other scenes
Mm-hmm.
prior that we kind of changed around and threw in a couple of lines here and there. So this particular day, I said, Steve, I got something for you besides this get 'em. He said, okay, what is it, my brother? Right? And I'm like, so instead of get him, I want to say, get that motherfucker 2-piece spicy, no biscuit. And he was like, what? Right? And then right at the time he said that, the wardrobe girl was walking by. She was like, hell yeah, that's what we say. Right?
Ah.
So, yeah, yeah, thank you, sister. Thank you. And then he goes, okay, use it. So
Wow.
in that scene, it's very small, but it's way bigger than Get 'em.
Right.
And I
Right.
said,
Right.
get that motherfucker 2-piece spicy, no biscuit. And then we start beating this dude down. You know what I'm saying?
I
So
remember. I
it's
remember that. Yeah.
wow, you know.
That's cool. So you're a writer too. So you write scripts. There you go.
I mean, I always get ad lib all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Good. So I want
You
to
know,
take it in a few minutes we have
first,
left. I want to take us down to the Magnum PI because this is major, man. I do remember when this was coming out and you were talking about I guess you would sign that check, sign the contract because that's when you told everybody.
yeah,
And
yeah,
this is what you got renewed for third season, right? This is on season
yeah. We
three.
just got the whole season.
Okay,
Um,
so talk to us about that because now you're on major network TV, man, every week on people's television stations. So talk to us about the difference. First of all, you're living in Hawaii, so I mean that's got to be nice. But talk about now. That you are at the level where now you are on major TV. You got a big time show. Talk to us about that transition and what it feels like after you set 17 years to be a quote unquote overnight success, if you will. So, give us some
yeah.
insights and feedback on where you are mentally with this whole situation where it is now.
A good segue from what I was saying about ad libbing. I ad lib all the time on Magnum, right? And because it's just I'm not sure if there's a lot of there's one sister that's like kind of like the Afro Latina. The writers are awesome, but I come in with a blackness that
Hmm.
not is not easily written.
Right.
Um, so we don't have blackish writers. You
Gotcha.
know what I mean?
Gotcha.
We have writers for our show, which is awesome, but it's not a black show.
Right,
You
of
know what I'm saying?
course.
So I come in with a lot of ad libs, and one of the most recent ones was a Hampton University ad lib.
I saw
Uh,
that.
as behind the scenes, I was able to have the conversation that my character attended Hampton University. You know, they wanted me to. They were writing me in as a Grambling student,
Mm-hmm.
because I believe the old TC and the old show might have gone to Grambling, and I was just like, I will never be able to talk about going to homecoming.
Right,
Never
right,
mind
right.
a good pair of shoes or whatever. Imagine I went back to Hampton and my character was a Grambling
Right. Got
student.
that
Like
Grambling jersey on.
I can't
Right.
do that. So I had the conversation, and now we established in second season that my character TC, aka Theodore Calvin, is a Hampton grad. But yeah, the transition from going from Carmine's to or just grinding it out in New York as an actor, and literally driving all over the country and flying over the country for years, going to different film festivals like this one, Black Star Film Festival
There you
in
go.
Philadelphia. This is one of my favorite ones, man. ADFF, Black Star. Got a shout out Pan African, Gary, Indiana Black Film Festival. You know, so there's a lot of really dope film festivals. Urban World, if anybody's looking for talent and looking for, you always hear black folks say, oh, how come we ain't do this kind of movie? How come they don't make movies like this? And how come we always got to be the drug dealer? And how come we always got to be prostitutes? And
Right.
how come we always got to be, you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, go to some of these film festivals where the tickets are cheaper than going to a movie. For $10, you can see a lot of unknown talent.
Mm.
But people don't realize that, like, that marketing budget counts, and we go see what's marketing to
Right.
us.
Absolutely.
Film festivals don't have that kind of budget, so we have to be proactive in supporting these festivals. So I've always supported the festivals. It's harder now for me to do it because I'm all the way in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, but I still, whenever I can, I'm repping. You know
Good
what I'm
stuff.
saying?
Good stuff.
So the transition is still happening. It's kind of, I don't really. Sometimes I'm like, I look out at this view and I'm like, Jesus, man, like, how did I get here? But then it's very isolating.
Mm-hmm.
It feels kind of lonely. It would be different if I were maybe in LA
Right.
or New York, but being here by myself and having this, it's like, I made it, y'all. And you look around like, wait a minute, where's everybody
Like,
at?
where
Like,
y'all?
yo,
Right. Right. Right.
I got the gold bar. Like, but then you sit there and you can't do nothing with it. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Right.
So
Right.
that's why you probably see me on social media more than I should be, because that's my outlet back to the world. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I'm just sitting in my castle like Rapunzel. You know what I mean? By myself. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, the transition is a strange one, but it's nice to be able to look out for people, your family. I just did for Juneteenth. A friend of mine, Lyndon, I think he's announcing the names today. Uh, he did 3 of my reels, and when I got here, the showrunner said he loved my reel, said it was excellent, and I told my editor of my reel that, and I told him, I was like, "Yo, man, um, how much you charging for reels these days?" And I was like, you know what? Let's sponsor someone.
Mm.
I want to pay for somebody's reel for Juneteenth, and then we decided, since he did three of my reels, I'm sponsoring 3 reels. So I just executive produced 3 people's reels to pay it forward.
That's
Uh,
awesome, man. That's awesome.
yeah, so we announced that today on Facebook actually. So looking forward to that.
That's
Yeah,
what I love. Yeah, man.
transition is difficult, man. But I would just tell anybody that's gonna do it, get prayed up,
Mm-hmm.
pray, because people will fall out of your life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Prove a point to you. You know, they'll fall out of your life just to be like, oh, I'm gonna diss him before he think he could diss me.
Jeez.
You know,
Yeah.
you'll find falling by the wayside, and then other people will come in and try to, chum up to you. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so you really have to work on your spirit of discernment, and you
Discernment,
got to
right.
get prayed up, and just know that, like, you know other people, just random people will come out of nowhere, and they'll always have a drink to shove in your hand. They'll, I've never done any drug. I've never smoked weed at all.
Right.
Nothing.
Me
Never had a
neither.
gum. Never. Nothing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I remember one day I'm sitting around. We're at like an after hours spot, and I'm looking around. I'm like, this is a seedy joint. Like, what am I doing in here, right? And I turn to the left, and there is somebody is like this close to my nose. Whoa, dude!
Wow.
Like, nah,
Wow.
man, that's not me, bro. I
Wow.
don't do that, bro. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I would just tell people, anybody that's like looking to make it, just know you gotta like strengthen yourself against that sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing, because it will be there every day if you want it,
We
and
we
that will take you down.
yeah, we see it happen to so many stars. You just wonder like how they how does it happen? But like I say, it's just everywhere. It's everywhere. The last
And
question I want to ask you,
nobody ever told them what I just said.
you're right. Right now they know. Now they know.
I didn't know.
Before we go, I want to ask you one more question and let you close us out. I mean, so let's get to the superficial stuff. I mean, are you famous? Can you go out now? 'Cause I mean, I'm assuming when you were working here at the Bees, you could still go out. Nobody knew who Stephen Hill was. Now, I mean, have you been on TMZ yet, Stephen? I mean, what's going on?
Oh, I hope I don't get on TMZ. I don't want to be on
Yeah,
TMZ.
I mean, sometimes it's good stuff.
Totally salacious,
That's when
right?
you.
I'm trying to avoid that.
Sometimes they got good
Uh,
stuff on there.
sometimes. But yeah, I I have no problem. Some people, it's interesting. I'm on the beach like every day, and a couple of people were like, "Oh, TC, TC,"
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday I ran into some people, and it was about three or four of them, and one of them said he actually did some extra work on the show, and they all prayed over me. They were
Good man.
like, yeah, we walk around and we pray for people and stuff. It was kind of like a church group or
Right.
whatever, and they just prayed over me, which was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I don't have any problem with that, and I think part of that is, one, there's no advertising here.
Oh, okay.
There's like billboards here at all. If you come to Hawaii, it's only trees and beautiful views.
Hmm.
You won't look outside and be like, oh, that's coming to HBO next month. Oh, okay, cool. You know what I mean? They don't have that.
Gotcha. Okay.
But they do kind of have a thing here where they just like, I don't know if it's my complexion or what. Sometimes they have a thing where they you know don't want you to think you special. You know what I'm saying? So they kind of like, I don't
Okay.
even watch the show. That
Gotcha.
sort of thing.
Gotcha.
If I had more money, like people that say they don't watch the show here, I would make more money if they gave me $1 for that than if they, than what I actually get paid to be on the show.
Wow.
But
Wow.
I think because I'm not in LA, I'm not in New York, and that's not really the culture here. I walk around, there's a Whole Foods in my building. I go down there every day. Some people know me from the show, and some people know me as that dude that's in Whole Foods every day.
Right.
So I
Sound
don't,
like
I
the
don't,
best of both worlds for you
I
then.
don't. Yeah, I do. I got it good, man. I
Good.
got it good.
Well, I want you to go ahead and give any final words, man. Tell people how they can follow and support you. Any final last words, help people reset in their passion for 2020. I definitely appreciate you sharing this time with us today.
Yeah, anybody listening, man, I know we're in some trying times, man, and not everybody is as fortunate as I am right now to just be able to go to the beach every day, that sort of thing. But I have a profound reinvigoration of wanting to be in shape, So it started with just walking. If you can get out and just walk, and get your supplements up and try to get your immune system up, I would encourage anybody to do that. And again, stay prayed up. And you can find me on Magna PI, CBS app. You can watch 2 seasons, almost. Well, actually, just well, yeah, you can watch 2 whole seasons of television. We got about 40 episodes.
Good stuff.
And my character is extremely positive. I'm basically a superhero. I own my own business. I am a youth league coach. I am ex-military. I'm saving the day all the time, flying helicopters, beating up bad guys, and doing all the good stuff. And you could do it while watching it with your young ones, or you can watch it with your middle-aged ones, and everybody will be entertained. So please tune in and tell some folks. And when you have the
Absolutely.
conversation, I feel like we have the conversation outside of like the CBS, or the Magnum PI fan page and things like that.
Hmm.
But have those conversations there. Let them know that you like the character. You know.
Absolutely. Stephen, thank you so much, man. I wish you continued success in everything that you do, brother. Always proud of you, and definitely going to keep supporting you and look forward to seeing you at one of these homecomings whenever we're able to go back outside.
Thank you, brother.
All
Thank you.
right.
And Stephen Hill Acts is my handles.
And it's P,
Follow.
as you can see on the screen, it's Stephen Hill
Yeah.
Axe. All right, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. This was dope, man.